Hello and welcome to Cooking Technique Tuesday. So we are doing a recipe from the Done-in-One cookbook, and I love Chinese food, so we are doing sesame chicken and broccoli. So I'm doing things a little different from the recipe. The recipe calls for already cooked chicken. I cubed my uncooked chicken breast. It cooks very quickly. So what I'm going to do first is we're actually going to assemble the sauce and sesame oil, soy sauce, ketchup. We got a little brown sugar. We got cornstarch to thicken it up, fresh garlic, fresh ginger, and we also have some spice to it as well. So list of ingredients will be with the recipe. Also, because I'm filming a bunch of videos back to back, so I actually had some leftover honey sesame broccoli from one of my other videos that I did with air fryer salmon. Be on the lookout for, or watch that one because it's absolutely fantastic. But I went ahead, because I had leftovers, so I'm kind of doing the opposite of the recipe. The recipe calls for frozen broccoli, and my broccoli's already cooked, and it calls for cooked chicken. The chicken cooks very quickly, so what I'm going to do is assemble the sauce, and then we'll get everything cooking. I'll throw the chicken in first, as opposed to what the recipe says, which is at the end, because you don't want to overcook cooked chicken, which is why I'm doing it raw. So let's get started. Alrighty, so first we are going to make our sauce. So I'm just going to combine our ingredients and then just whisk it together. Got some soy sauce and a little bit of ketchup. It already smells good, just mainly from the soy sauce. And then mix that together just a little bit. And then I've got my sambal, which is a little bit of spice. I added more than the recipe calls for because I love spicy food. So you can use as much or as little as you would like. And then what I'm gonna do is whisk in the cornstarch. I'm gonna add just a little bit at first, kind of get it started. And what you really wanna do is just make sure there's no lumps. So I'm gonna incorporate it just a little bit at a time because I can already tell. There we go. If you do it a little bit at a time, you shouldn't have lumps. You could also always add a little bit of this liquid to that, mix it first, and then add it in. It's called like making a slurry, basically. But looks like this is working out perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and finish adding the cornstarch and just whisk it up a little bit, and I'll see you over by my wok. Alrighty, we are ready. So I've got my wok on medium heat, and I can tell it's getting nice and warm. So I've also just got everything all set up. So what I'm going to do is add sesame oil first, cook my garlic ginger mixture. And again, I'm doing this recipe a little different. Then I'm going to add the chicken, let that cook. I'm also going to add the chicken broth with it. And then over here, I've got my sauce. So once the chicken is cooked, I'll add that in because it's going to need to cook with the cornstarch. And then I got my broccoli over there, which is already fully cooked. So I'm really just going to add it at the end to heat it up. So let's get started. Oh, this is already smelling amazing just because it's sesame oil. And I'm going to just move it around a little bit until it's already getting nice and heated. And then it says to cook the garlic and ginger for about a minute. I probably won't do it that long just because it's going to be boring watching me. And the sizzle means the oil's ready. So you want to keep things in fairly constant motion as well because you don't want the garlic and the ginger to burn. So it was actually kind of fun when I was in culinary school. We had cuisines of Asia, and we had giant woks over real fire, and that was fabulous. And that was one of the things I remember Chef Chang always taught us, which was to keep it moving so it wouldn't burn, but it would cook. And it smells so fantastic right now. All right, I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, usually you'd want to cook it for about a minute, but that gets boring. So I'm going to go ahead and add my chicken. Oh, wow. Get it mixed in with the garlic and olive oil. Not necessarily looking for a crazy amount of browning on this. It's going to have a sauce on top of it. So there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my chicken broth. And this I'm gonna let cook for, well, several minutes until the chicken is cooked through. And I tried to cut it fairly small, but let's see how this turns out. So usually in the real recipe, it would be the broccoli in with the chicken broth. I'm gonna let the chicken broth kind of get up to temperature. It's going to help cook the chicken, and then we're going to add the sauce, and then we'll finish it off with the broccoli. So I'll see you when the chicken is done. All right, so I went ahead and added my sauce. And honestly, I think if I would change anything, I would have cooked the chicken a little longer before I added the broth. But also video-wise, I kind of like to make it fast. So just a little pro tip there. But I went ahead and just added the sauce. So this has cornstarch in it. So what we wanted to do is cook a little bit, and it's going to thicken up. Alrighty. Now, if it ends up being too thick, you can always add a little bit more chicken stock. If it's not thick enough, I'll have my cornstarch handy, and I'll slurry it with a little bit of chicken stock. But it's looking like it's getting a little thicker as we go. So I'm going to let this cook for a few minutes, and then I'll add the broccoli, so I'll see you then. Alrighty, so my sauce is a nice gloopy consistency. That's the technical term. There's a little bit of chicken bits in there, so it's not as pretty as I wanted it. But again, if I had put the chicken stock in a little later, probably would have been a good idea. But in my haste, I just added it. But that is the texture that we want. You can see how it kind of just drips down like that. So now what I'm going to do is add in my honey sesame broccoli from before. And I'm just going to let this combine, heat up, make sure it's all coated with the sauce. And then I will see you when I plate this. And this smells amazing. So see you in a few minutes. Alrighty, and we are back. So I went ahead and plated it. I added some sesame seeds. That is not in the recipe either, but sesame chicken without sesame seeds seems weird to me. So there we go. Put a few scallions on top as well. So time to taste. The sauce has a nice kick to it. Again, if you want to reduce the heat, reduce the amount of sambal that you put in there. But very delicious. I love the sauce. You know, it has a little bit of sweetness to it, a little bit of spice. Overall, very, very, very tasty. Very excited about this one because sesame chicken is actually one of my favorite foods, and it's very high in points. So I'm excited to make this. So if you end up making it, let me know, and we will see you next Cooking Technique Tuesday.